Well, US bank shares have rallied overnight following the buyout of the Silicon Valley Bank by its American rival First Citizen. Joining me now is business reporter Edward Boyd. Ed, Aussie bank shares have been under pressure for weeks. Are we through the worst of it now?
Laura, it certainly looks like, from a market's perspective, that banking sectors around the world appear to be getting through the worst of it. So for the Aussie Big Four banks, they have been under a substantial amount of pressure for the past couple of weeks. Basically, the banks and financial stocks have been hit pretty hard. The ASX itself has had 7 weeks in a row a losing streak, which is its worst losing streak since 2008. But overnight, there was this takeover of Silicon Valley Bank by its competitor First Citizen. They're taking on its deposits and its loans, and bank stocks overnight went up. And look, this morning, currently the chairman of APRA, Australia's banking regulator, he's speaking at the AFR Business Summit in Sydney. He's just doing his opening remarks at the moment, but just take a listen to this little snippet I pulled out of the speech, where he basically talks about Australia's banking sector being insulated from the global banking crisis that we've seen in America and over in Europe.
Although the collapse of SVB and subsequent takeover of Credit Suisse have had little impact on Australian banks, their plight and the global alarm it sparked highlighted 2 truths about banking. First is how interconnected the international financial system has become. For example, Credit Suisse has a global presence, including a branch here in Australia. Local banks had next to no exposure to SVB, yet concerns about these entities immediately sparked anxiety about contagion risk. And that brings me to the second point, the importance of confidence in maintaining bank stability.
So the chairman of APRA has talked a bit more since then about the strength of Australia's banking sector. Australian banks are really well capitalised, and there's been trust built up between banks and Australian consumers for many years. Here's the local market open this morning, up about 0.9% in early trade. So it took off yesterday and then sort of died down in the afternoon. It looks like today it's a much stronger gain for the market, up almost 1%. And hopefully we can keep these gains going for the rest of the week, Laura.
Let's look at the February retail sales figures. Well, we don't have them quite yet, but they were released this morning. Economists will be hoping to see a decline in spending activity.
Yeah, look, the expectation is retail sales in February are going to creep ahead by 0.2%. Look back to January, they jumped 1.9%. So 0.2% is basically a slowdown in the retail sales sector. Obviously, the Reserve Bank wants to see people tightening up their spending. One bank, I think it might be ANZ, they're expecting retail sales to decline in February. And really, we do want to see consumers starting to tighten up, because it basically means inflation is going to start coming down. Big retailers are going to have to cut their prices to encourage people to spend money in their stores. So we'll get those figures from the Bureau a bit later this morning, and they are going to be pretty significant, because the Reserve Bank will look at these numbers before they make their cash rate decision next month, which is expected to be a hold. Laura?